What's going on, everybody? Jared Barnes here, back with another episode of The Jared Barnes Show. I am super excited for today's episode. A lot has happened over the last week in the sports world, and I'm excited to just hop right into it. Again, I'm going to, go through the regular things. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe. It would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe to the podcast. Share it with a friend if you enjoy this episode. This is going to be an interesting one because it's a little bit of a dead period in sports, but things are still happening. And especially for me, because I love the NFL, so it is a bit of a dead period. But I'm excited to get into the conversation today. So, first thing on the agenda. Man, and this happened yesterday as the day of I'm recording this, but Carl Nassib has come out and has declared that he is gay. And in my mind, I view this as just an absolutely amazing situation for him, that he's been able to find a place where he feels like he's at peace now, where he feels like he can come out and let people know that this is who he is. I'm glad he was able to come to a place where he's comfortable saying that. He said it's been something he's waited a long time for. You could tell it was not a publicity stunt, because you could almost see when you watch the video that it was almost like a monkey was lifted off of his back when he revealed that situation. And I believe we live in a world where people should just, let people be people. And sometimes, there's a lot of hate in the world. But yesterday, I saw so much love coming from other players in the NFL and stuff like that, because I remember when Michael Sam, who was going into the draft, announced that he was, gay, and it plummeted his draft stock and led him to be like this 6 picks before the 7th round was over. And he was out of the NFL after 1 year. And I hope that we have progressed far enough as a league and as a people to where we can let Carl Nassib, who is he's been a guy, he's been around the NFL. He's a guy that seems to do well in locker rooms. He seems to be a guy that is very well respected. And I hope we have progressed far enough as people to just accept Carl Nassib for who he is. This wire is bugging me. But I was very, very, it was very cool to see that the love and the support that was given to him. And I'm very excited to see how it plays out. I know yesterday, which is not the 23rd, the 22nd, the day I'm recording this, it was announced that he had the highest selling jersey on the NFL store, according to Fanatics, which just tells me that many more people have come out just and wanting to show their support. And maybe they didn't come out and say anything, but they went and bought his jersey, and we're finally getting some representation for the LGBTQ plus community in a sport that doesn't seem to have any representation for that. And it could encourage others to, be themselves as well, whether that may be. And whether you believe in like that this is okay or not, like I'm somebody that just goes, you got to live your life. If that's what you do, that's what you do. And if you're somebody that this is something that you really hate and it really bothers you, I don't know what to tell you. I think you should just enjoy your life and let others live theirs, and whatever goes on behind closed doors, you should just, that's not your business. That's their business. But I do feel like everybody has the right to be able to feel comfortable in their own skin. And Carl Nassib is now in that place where he is now able to feel comfortable in his own skin. And I think that is something that we as people and we as fans of the NFL and the people that talk about the NFL, this is something that we should not be overlooking. We shouldn't be like comparing it to other situations like Michael Sam and stuff like that. Like, I feel like that we should just take this situation for what it is. He is now the face of the gay athlete community, especially even the NFL, because there wasn't really anybody that is that well known, or maybe that has officially come out. He is the first active NFL player. There has been players that have come out after they've retired, but he is the first active NFL player that is on an active roster to ever come out as gay, and I hope that this does not affect anything in the locker room. I've heard a lot of players come out and say, "Hey, none of the players or coaches care what goes on outside of, as long as you show up and you're still committed to the organization, you're still committed to winning. It doesn't matter to them what you do outside." Now, this is going to be something that possibly helps cause some conversation for others. Maybe it leads to questions being asked in a healthy manner inside of NFL organizations, which I'm sure there has already been conversations like that before. But in a league where I would assume it's pretty monotonous every single day, every single week, you come in, you do the same thing, you watch film, you practice, you do all this stuff, you go through that grind. Something new to throw into that conversation where you can open up and learn something and maybe get a different perspective on something. It's healthy for players, and I think it's healthy for everybody in general to maybe have an open mind and have a different perspective, maybe, and listen and take in things and just try to figure things out. I don't think you can close your mind off and say, I'm set in my ways. Like, I don't think that's a very healthy way to live just as a people. And I'm kind of going on a bit of a rant here, but that is generally how I feel. Like, you can't be somebody that has just a closed mind. You have to have an open mind. You have to be open to things, because if you're not open to nothing, you're never going to change. You're never going to progress further in your life. And I'll be honest, that's something I've been learning myself over the last year. Like, I can't be as closed-minded. I have to be very open-minded, and I have to be open to change. Like, I went through massive change myself this year, just, decisions that I had to make. I dropped out of college and went to another college. Like, I was in Pennsylvania my whole life. Dropped out of school, went to school down in Florida, which big change for me, but it's helped me learn to be more comfortable in my own skin and make, have an open mind and make changes and do things better for myself. And now, I don't know how I got on this rabbit trail, but just as a people, I'm just so glad to see that so many people came out in support of Carl Nassib, because he's a human being as well. He deserves to be supported. He deserves to be able to make that, come out and make that choice and let people know that that's who he is, because that's who he is. And I'm just excited to see how this, goes for Carl. I wish him the best of luck, because I met him back in 2015 at a Penn State spring game. He was the nicest person I've ever met in my life. And I had questions for him, and to be honest, I can't remember what our conversation entailed of that day. It was just a very exciting moment for me to be there and just hanging out with friends and, a couple people. And I spoke to Carl Nassib, a small conversation, and it was just very cool to meet the guy. So to know that this is somebody I have met and spoken to before in my life, it was just very interesting and a very cool thing, I think, for the NFL and the world in general. Moving on from that, though, there's other stuff going on in the sports world that are, things happening on the field, on the diamond. The MLB is starting checking pitchers and players for the sticky stuff, the spider tack, the stuff like that. And I didn't really get to talk about this, mainly because everybody knows I'm not a huge baseball guy. But the spider tack is a very serious thing in the league, like the sticky stuff. People have kind of taken advantage of an unwritten rule, and that's normally when these unwritten rules kind of come to light and become a drama thing, is when someone takes advantage of them, like the sign stealing. Sign stealing has been going on forever. I feel like that the taking advantage, using maybe some technology to do so, maybe was an issue. The sticky stuff, I think that was fine. The sunscreen and the rosin, I think that stuff, because it is unhealthy to be throwing a ball that many times at that high of a speed all the time. Like, I'm assuming your body cannot take that. So anybody that got checked, the first person that really we all got checked was Jake DeGrom, who is just levels above every other pitcher in the league, it seems like. And everybody knows he doesn't use it. And he got checked, and he just kind of laughed in the ump's face when he got checked, because he knew they weren't going to find anything on him. But it was very public that he was being checked. Like, it almost seems like the MLB wants to catch somebody using it, and so they can use him as an example. Like, it looks bad. Like, especially if it slows down the game itself. Like, because the game of baseball, that's the last thing they need is for the game to get slowed down even more because it's already so tough to watch. The ratings are so bad. If you start slowing the game down even more, and it's like by 10 to 15 minutes per, like okay, let's just say it's 5 to 10 minutes per game. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of hours by the end of the season. And who knows how long this will go on. Jake DeGrom didn't get caught with it. And I think the interaction between him and the ump was actually hilarious to watch because everybody knew when they check him, they weren't going to find anything because he just throws nasty stuff. Like, that's just how he is. It's insane, the stat that came out that he has driven in more runs this year than he has given up. And to me, that is just a crazy stat. He is heads and levels above everybody else. Some are saying maybe he's even the greatest of all time. Not me, but some people are saying, is Jake DeGrom possibly one of the greatest players of all time at the pitching? And I mean, if he keeps doing what he's doing, I mean, this is going to be one of these players that I'm just lucky that I'm going to be living to see him play because he is just that good. I'm going to be excited, like not excited, but it's going to be interesting to see if they ever actually do catch a pitcher with spider tack or some sticky stuff to be throwing because they all know that they're going to be checked. They all know that, like, they have to figure it out. It's also going to be intriguing to see what pitchers' numbers just kind of take a dive because they're nervous they're going to get caught with this, some sticky stuff, some spider tack, maybe some whatever it may be, the residue, whatever it may be. It's going to be interesting to see how the numbers play out for some of these pitchers and how it may cost some of them some money down the line. That was baseball talk for the day. Don't really get to do that all that often. I'll be honest, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you're a baseball podcaster, I would love to have you on the show. Because I'm not like a huge baseball guy. I follow it. I play MLB The Show a lot. I check in on baseball. I watch here and there, but I'm not like worshiping baseball. It's not my favorite sport. So if you're a baseball podcaster, shoot me a DM. Maybe I'll reach out to you if you just like comment, because I'll make this an Instagram post. I'll make this a TikTok video. Please reach out to me. I would love to have you on the show. And I'd love to have a conversation with you just about how baseball, how this is like so big, like, because like I get it, but I don't feel like I fully understand it. I don't feel like I'm doing my listeners justice by talking about it the way I'm talking about it. And I would love to have a baseball podcaster on just to start the conversation and make some connections and meet somebody new. I would really enjoy that. Another thing that happened over the last day or so, Tom Brady. Everybody has seen the HBO video from The Shop. The Shop, that show is awesome. I love that show. The sit-down conversation, it feels like a podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I really like the show. And to hear these athletes just have these conversations sometimes is very cool to me. I like to hear their perspective on things because people view them as like idols almost, but they're just normal people with just more than above average skills than the average person. And Tom Brady, he's going to be on an episode of The Shop, and there's this soundbite that they put in the trailer that HBO did, and HBO knows what they're doing. It's going to be an awesome episode, and I can only imagine the ratings for that show and the ratings for that episode are going to be out of this world. But Tom Brady was asked a question, he's talking about his free agency. He wasn't really asked a question, but he goes, he's talking about who he was going to decide. And there was a team that was interested. And throughout the process, up until the end, they were interested. And then he was just like, you're going to stick with that MFer? Like, it clearly helped put a chip on his shoulder, which, number one, he didn't already need because he's already one of the more motivated quarterbacks that play in the NFL, in my mind. He's also Tom Brady. So he's literally a walking, living legend. Like, he needs any more motivation. But he was given it by this team. He already had the chip on his shoulder for being pick 199. He still lets that fuel him to this day. He had a chip on his shoulder for being pretty much forced out of New England. And he had a chip on his shoulder now because this team decided they didn't want him. I mean, this team could be single-handedly the reason that Tom Brady wanted to try to win the Super Bowl so bad. And Twitter and the internet just tried to sit down and figure out, well, who could this team be? and they talked about all these different who it could be. I think I know who it could be, but let's talk through the possible teams that it could be. One of them is the 49ers. We all know that he wanted to play for the Niners. That's closer to where he grew up. He grew up a Niners fan, idolizing Joe Montana. But the Niners had Jimmy G coming fresh off of a Super Bowl. Now, because of that, I assume, and this is my mind, I assume that it was not the 49ers. Because I feel like Kyle Shanahan was set in his ways with Jimmy G. I think he knew that Jimmy G was going to give him what he needed. And then after another year where Jimmy G gets injured, he decides to move on. So I ruled out the Niners. Then I looked at another team, the Chicago Bears. They were supposedly in his top 3 at the end. The Chicago Bears had Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky at the time. Nick Foles, a guy that Tom Brady has some history with. Beat him in a Super Bowl. Nick Foles winning MVP, catching a touchdown in a Super Bowl in which Tom Brady dropped a pass, where they went head-to-head, and he got beat by Nick Foles in the Super Bowl. I mean, his defense didn't really help him out. They gave up a lot of yards in that game, a lot of points. It was an awesome Super Bowl, but Nick Foles was kind of the guy in Chicago at that time. He ended up starting. It could be Nick Foles, because then you think about it, mid-season, the Bears beat Brady yet again. Well, not yet again, but Nick Foles beats Brady yet again. Brady doesn't want to shake his hand after the game. There's clearly beef there, but yeah, Brady's just following COVID protocol. You're not supposed to be meeting midfield after the game, so Brady was just following COVID protocol. So maybe it wasn't Nick Foles. So I ruled out the Bears personally myself. Then I look at another team, the Los Angeles Rams or the Los Angeles Chargers. But everybody knew, picking 6, the Chargers at that time were going to take a quarterback, and they inevitably landed Justin Herbert. But at the time, Tyrod Taylor, the Chargers were slightly interested. So who knows? But because I knew the Chargers was picking a quarterback, I ruled the Chargers out. Then I look at the Rams as well, because they had Jared Goff. They have a huge contract, but they know Jared Goff maybe isn't a legit guy. And maybe a lot of people last year, the public perception of Jared Goff was maybe he is a guy still. But in my mind, I didn't view him as that. Like, I viewed him as a mid-tier average quarterback, and I didn't think he was a guy. Now, I didn't think the Rams were that big in the contention, but a lot of people have thrown their names into the ring. I ruled them out, though, strictly because of Jared Goff's contract. I don't think they'd bring in Tom Brady and then have Jared Goff be the backup with that contract, because they know nobody was going to take it. So that leaves 2 teams. The Las Vegas Raiders with Derek Carr, which inevitably very much could be it, because they seem to be interested pretty much all the way up until the end, but then they weren't. And the other team was the Tennessee Titans. And that is the team that I believe helped put that chip on Brady's shoulder, mainly because all the Patriot ties. Coach Mike Vrabel. He is a former Patriot. He is a former teammate of Tom Brady's. They won Super Bowls together on the same team. The culture that he has was similar to the one that he was recently in. So why couldn't it have been Tennessee? They also at that time did not really have a quarterback, and the Titans just went on a playoff run. They beat New England in New England to end picked off Tom Brady and returned it for a touchdown on Tom Brady's last ever pass as a New England Patriot. Went on a bit of a playoff run all the way to the AFC Championship game. Ryan Tannehill's a free agent. What do? They bring back Ryan Tannehill. I think that was the MFer that the team decided to stick with and not bring in Tom Brady. In my mind, that's what I think. I could be dead wrong, but I think the Titans are the team that helped put that chip on Tom Brady's back, helped them win a Super Bowl this year, because they stuck with their guy in Ryan Tannehill. But I thought that was just interesting in my mind. It was just super interesting to hear. Like, I'm so excited for that conversation and that to come out, because that's going to be an awesome episode for sure. Another thing that just, recently happened, the 76ers were eliminated by the Atlanta Hawks in the semifinals of the Eastern Conference. The Atlanta Hawks now advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think the national media has to start putting respect on the name of the Atlanta Hawks. Mid-season coaching change. Virtual roster, kind of, a little bit of a roster rehaul, bringing in a couple different guys. Like this team compared to last year, like to this year, being like they were terrible. They were awful in the East the year prior. Then this year they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. And they beat the Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks. And Trae Young has legit established himself, in my mind, and in a lot of people's mind, as a top 10 player in the league. But the story coming out of that, sadly, isn't just how good the Atlanta Hawks are and how that coaches or teams that have had a coaching change mid-season went on, since 1980, have went on to win the championship 4 out of 4 times. They're 4-0. The Hawks are that 5th team. Could they make it 5-0? I don't personally believe they can. I don't see them beating the Suns or the Clippers. But then again, I also didn't see them beating the 76ers at all. Especially if Joel Embiid, maybe I did. I wanted them to, but deep down I didn't fully believe it. And then it happened. But the whole story coming out of this is the process is failing in Philly. Joel Embiid, unhealthy, cannot stay healthy ever, it feels like. Ben Simmons can never shoot, won't shoot, too scared to shoot. Doc Rivers can't win a Game 7. It's a problem. And I believe that there's an organizational problem in Philly. They've created a soft environment. And that's part of the problem. If you want a day off, have a day off. No problem. Take a day off. You haven't won anything yet, but have a day off. It don't matter to us. We're not going to win anything anyways. You want a week off? You want some time off? Hey, you can't shoot? Don't shoot. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. We'll give you $190 million. You can't shoot a 3. We'll give you $190 million. No problem. You're an all-star. You're a great defensive player. We don't need you to shoot. We'll have other people that can shoot. No problem. Suck. We don't care. Take a day off. Be soft. Don't matter. It's an organizational problem. The process was built on taking time off, having a small injury, take a year off. Who cares? It's a problem. It's an organizational issue in Philly. It's not just like one player. It's the whole entire organization. I think that is kind of what people are underestimating. And on First Take today, Stephen A. Smith, and I don't love First Take, but I love Stephen A. I think Stephen A. is the person that anybody in the sports media world should aspire to be, strictly because he has an insane work ethic. People forget that before he became what he is now, he was just a normal sports writer. He put in his time. He deserves every single dollar that he gets because he's just that good. Stephen A. is the guy. Stephen A. is the guy you want to be. Stephen A. is what you want to do if you're work hard. You can become a Stephen A. Stephen A. is that guy. I respect Stephen A. A lot of people on the internet say that Stephen A. is washed and he's old, and he's Stephen A. Don't challenge him. He's better than you at the sports world because you didn't sit and write for 20 years and follow teams. Stephen A. gets the Philadelphia 76ers. He followed them for years. Someone close to the issue with Ben Simmons, someone close to Ben Simmons in Philly has texted Stephen A., texted him live on First Take today, and Stephen A. read it aloud without revealing the person's name because that's how Stephen A. don't reveal sources, because guess what? Sometimes those anonymous sources are the best way to get information. It's just facts. This is what he said today on First Take. I just received a text from someone very close to the situation in Philly about Ben Simmons. The text said, the text said, and I quote, this is a quote. He said, this is not his words. He said, this was the text. He said, he doesn't work. He doesn't listen. And everybody around him is family. And he's constantly babied. And then after that, Max Kellerman was saying maybe he needs to go to the LA Lakers and be with LeBron and get that mentorship from a legit veteran, which Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. did not want to hear. And personally, I think a great landing spot for Ben Simmons is the Los Angeles Lakers, because LeBron loves Ben. But I think LeBron at this point in his career wants shooters around him, wants somebody else that can score, and that's not Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is not that guy. Ben Simmons in the last 4 games in the series didn't take a single shot, I'm pretty sure, in the fourth quarter. That's like, hello, you're supposed to be an all-star player. You're number 2 on the team, yet you're not taking a single shot in the fourth quarter. Why are you so scared to shoot the ball, my man? Like, it's a problem. And I think it stems from the entire organization, and that's why I fully believe that the Philadelphia 76ers will never win an NBA championship with the current organization structure and who they have in charge in management and front office wise until they're all gone, including Joel Embiid, players on the court as well. Like, I feel like the process has failed. One of them is going to have to go. It's going to be Ben Simmons. But I think the 76ers, strictly, and this is a hot take, I don't think the 76ers are ever going to win with Joel Embiid anyways. I think you got to move on from both of them at this point and figure it out. Just somehow figure it out. Move on. It hasn't worked. Move on from both. The Rockets had James Harden for how long? It didn't work. They moved on, and yeah, they stink. That's going to happen. But they're going to find somebody at some point soon and turn it around to the Rockets. Like, it's a problem. They're going to have to do something. And I think the best move for them is to move on from both Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, because I believe they're never going to win a championship if they keep either one of them or both of them. It's just my thoughts on the whole situation. Speaking of the NBA playoffs, though, the Utah Jazz, the number 1 seed in the East, was defeated by a Kawhi-less Clippers team. And Paul George is finally earning the respect back of some other, people outside of the NBA, people that aren't the huge, big basketball guys. I've always had respect for PG. Loved him at Indiana. Loved him at OKC, my favorite team. And I'm glad to see that people are saying, let's not be so harsh on a guy. Like, he's still pretty good. He's still got it. He's never been a number 1 guy. But he's a good number 2. He's a good, solid number 2 because he can score. He can play defense. He's very, very good. He's extremely talented. He's in the NBA. He's like an awesome player. And I'm glad to see that people are giving him respect back. But, man, the Jazz were a great team too. Like, let's not sleep on the Clippers without Kawhi. I don't think they're getting Kawhi back strictly because, like, that's a very serious injury Kawhi suffered. I don't see him returning in these playoffs and being anywhere near the level that he's going to need to be for them to win a championship. But people do say he is a cyborg, so maybe there is a chance. But I'll be excited to see how it plays out. Also, speaking of the NBA playoffs, I have to talk about it. The Brooklyn Nets, the team that I thought was going to win it all for a long time, they've been eliminated by the Milwaukee Bucks. Season's over. Health, they just couldn't do it, health-wise. They gave everything they had. Strictly organizationally speaking, the organization gave everything they had this season to try to go all in and win a championship. They'll have a lot of the same guys next year, but can they do it? That's the question. Kevin Durant did everything he could. What else could Kevin Durant have done? People are asking. A lot of people are saying, hey, could have moved his foot back and hit the game-winning shot. Not wrong. You're not wrong. Maybe if he didn't have such long feet, that wouldn't be a problem. But they're eliminated now. They are out, and the NBA season is starting to wrap up. And I'm excited to see how it plays out. This is when I really start getting into it because I start, really wanting to focus in on it because this is when it gets super exciting because you got the 4 teams left. And this year it's going to be, it's 4 teams we're not used to seeing at this point. The Phoenix Suns, the Atlanta Hawks, the Clippers. Like, this is to me, this is awesome. The Bucks, I feel like this could be the year that Giannis maybe finally gets it done. And that would be awesome for Giannis, but he didn't. Some would say he didn't have to go through anybody that hard to get it. But I think for the future of the NBA, this playoffs, the way it is right now, although the ratings are going to stink this year, we all know that, but the ratings all season have stunk. They've stunk for a long time. So, and I think the NBA needs to capitalize better on their social media aspect of the game and find a way to make money off of that, because that is how a lot of people, I feel like, consume the NBA, is through social media. They don't have to sit down and fully watch the game, because you can kind of get the gist of the game through the social media clips that the NBA puts out, because the NBA social media team is on point. They're awesome. So I think they need to find a way to capitalize on that, because that is how, like, people like me do consume a lot of the NBA, because we're busy people, we're working, we have lives, we have stuff going on. I watch a lot of basketball. I very much enjoyed watching, like, it's not like, for some reason, I don't know what it's been. E on the mic, my guy, I have, like, really fully enjoyed checking out his lives during the games. To me, it's been more enjoyable, because I do normally sit in my room and watch the games by myself in quiet. So it's been nice to see the reactions of another human being while I'm watching the game, because I normally just sit there in quiet and take in the game and don't sit on my phone. But watching his watch-alongs has been pretty enjoyable for me to do. So I very much enjoyed that. And I've been thinking about doing stuff like that for myself. Maybe I'll do that during the NFL season and bring on people while I'm watching the NFL games and talk. Maybe like a Sunday afternoon game, maybe a Monday night game. That would be cool. Maybe I'll start doing that stuff. We'll see. But yeah, that's all I got for today. It's been a cool episode. Been an exciting time. Hope you enjoyed this one. Some content to expect over the next couple of days and weeks for me. I'm going to do a team outlook for all 32 NFL teams. This is going to be strictly for YouTube. So if you don't follow me on YouTube, head over to my YouTube channel. The link will be in this podcast episode, whether you listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anything like that. It will be in the, description of the podcast. I'll drop that link. You'll get it there. You can subscribe to the YouTube, but I will be giving my outlook and expectations for every single NFL team over the next month and a half, over the next 6 weeks. Starting probably next week, because I'm going to be doing a lot of the notes this week coming up. I'm excited for that. I am still working on that USFL video, the history of the United States Football League, the one that was through the 80s that is coming back next year. I'm working on a lot of different YouTube content as well. I got new TikTok content that I want to be putting out as well, and some new graphics that I will be, dropping here and there on my social media every once in a while on my Instagram and stuff. So make sure you follow that at Instagram, Jared Barnes Show, TikTok, Jared Barnes Show, Twitter, Jared Barnes Show. You follow me on there, you'll get a daily dose of my content, and my YouTube at the Jared Barnes Show. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Also, I said I'll be doing a team outlook for all 32 teams, but don't worry, people. If you don't watch all my YouTube content, or you don't consume all my content, you listen to the podcast, though, I will be doing an outlook for each division on my podcast, and this is my plan. I will be doing that with a guest that's a fan of one of the teams in that division for every single one of those episodes. So there'll be 8 episodes with a guest, where I talk about a division. I won't reveal any of the guests strictly because I have none of them booked, but I will be reaching out to certain people. So do expect maybe a message from me if you're a fan of a team, and that I respect your content, I respect your grind and stuff like that. But I'm very excited for all that's going on. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Love you. Really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, share it with a friend. I would really appreciate it. Help this thing grow organically. That's how it's going to grow anyways. Leave a rating if you haven't done so. I would really love if you was able to leave a rating. That would mean the world to me on Apple Podcasts, because it's really going to help me grow. But, appreciate and love every single one of you guys that listen. You guys are the absolute best. Hope you have a great week. Expect another episode later this week with E on the mic. Super excited for that. He's my guy. Ethan is legitimately one of my favorite podcasters. Him and Peyton Doyle, host of the Peyton Doyle Show. Those are 2 of my favorite podcasters that I've met. I've also met some other people, not in person and stuff like that, but hopefully one day we can all meet in person. Morris from the Slow Grind Edits, he's awesome as well. check him out. I don't know why I'm plugging all these people right now. It's crazy. It's not because I'm not even tired. I'm literally recording this at like a normal time for a human to be up. So, and I normally don't ever do that. I also didn't get thirsty in this episode either. Oh, I'm gonna ramble a little bit here because I am obsessed with Marvel stuff. I am watching the Loki show right now. That show's awesome. I mean, I love Tom Hiddleston. I like the direction they're going with this show. I kind of was mad after the first episode because I was like, well, the multiverse doesn't sound like it could be a real thing now, but turns out it is. And it couldn't be. I'm very excited. So if you haven't checked out Loki, I don't work for Disney. They don't pay me, but check out Loki if you're into that Marvel stuff, because it is a pretty cool show. I've very much enjoyed it. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. It's been cool. I guess this is where we end. Have a good one.